Chapter 61. Some people seem to be asleep. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ever since he fainted in class the first time, Lockhart was hesitant to perform, and his reputation with the students took a nosedive. After all, he couldn't explain why he'd passed out. He couldn't exactly say he was spooked by the sight of a female ghost. Especially after bragging that minor injuries were nothing to him, a seasoned adventurer. He couldn't even blame it on old war wounds. Lockhart seriously suspected he'd been set up, but he couldn't find any proof, and he certainly couldn't ask for help. He tentatively asked his old head of house, Professor Flitwick, how to handle a female ghost. But Professor Flitwick knew exactly what he was up to. He just smiled, told him he had plenty of experience, and then, clearly not wanting to hear any more boasting, took off. For the first time, Lockhart felt like his big mouth had gotten him into trouble. Students, let's delve into. Lockhart glanced around. Reciting my works and experiencing my epic battles against the forces of darkness. What's his deal? Bernard was totally lost, and nobody around him had any answers. Adam, who actually knew what was going on, was busy using his shorthand quill to scribble on a creation card. What are you waiting for? Seeing his classmates' puzzled expressions, Lockhart put on a brave face and raised his hand. Don't you have a clue? Let me choose a passage for you. He grabbed the first book off a Slytherin student's desk in the front row and flipped through it. How about starting with Chapter 2 of Wanderings with Werewolves? There was no arguing. Outrageous as Lockhart was, he was still a professor. So everyone grabbed their books, turned to the right page, and started reading. It was in that forest, bathed in moonlight, that I first saw the beast. Stop. Stop. Hold on a sec. Lockhart frantically raised his hand to stop them. As the reading stopped, the forest and moonlight vanished from Lockhart's mind, and he let out a sigh of relief. Don't read that. Ahem. The passage we just read was a little too intense. Let's try another chapter. How about Chapter 27? The students exchanged glances. Finally, a Lockhart superfan said hesitantly, but, Professor Lockhart, Chapter 27 is the end of the story. You and the werewolf have already parted ways. Exactly. Right. But Miss Marceau, you have to understand, appreciating the beauty of life is essential. Lockhart nodded knowingly. But you just said, you wanted us to experience your battles against the forces of darkness. Oh, did I say that? Lockhart smiled, trying to brush it off, but the students all nodded earnestly. Oh, well, okay then. Eugene thought he saw a hint of tears in Lockhart's smile. Lockhart dragged a chair behind the podium and forced a smile. Everyone, let's begin. He was out of his depth when it came to teaching defense against the dark arts. He couldn't just cancel class. So, compared to facing real monsters, Lockhart figured he was safer just sitting and watching. Maybe if he closed his eyes, it wouldn't be so bad. Lockhart took a deep breath and shut his eyes tight. It was in that forest, bathed in moonlight, that I first saw the beast. The moment the students began to read, Lockhart's eyelids started to twitch. The professor's got his eyes closed anyway. He'd only taught them a couple of classes. How could he tell if someone was faking it? With that in mind, many simply stopped reading altogether, but most of them just mouthed the words, just in case Lockhart suddenly opened his eyes. Professor Lockhart looks really engaged. Hannah mumbled as she prepared to read the climax of the chapter. Ernie, sitting diagonally behind her, couldn't help but complain, doesn't he look like he's asleep? Adam, not worried about Lockhart opening his eyes, chuckled to himself. By the time the class reached the werewolf's transformation under the full moon in Chapter 4, Lockhart had already passed out. But Adam wasn't about to let him off that easily. He was still having a love affair with the werewolf in his dreams. If Adam hadn't considered cultural differences and feared the guy might actually enjoy it, he would have had the werewolf give him a poke while he slept. After class, Lockhart, waking from his nightmare, gave his classmates a weak smile as they filed out. He stood up from his chair after a long while with trembling legs. The chair was still wet. What did you do to Lockhart this time? They didn't know what happened in the other classes, but they had seen Lockhart's strange behavior for themselves. Back in the dorm, they pulled Adam onto the small couch and surrounded him, curiosity piqued. "How can you accuse me of such a thing?" "I was reading with the book in my hand and my voice full of emotion." Adam slapped the table, putting on an innocent act. Yeah, we believe you." Bernard nodded. "So, what do you think Lockhart was going through in class?" "My guess might not be accurate." "That's okay, we'll just take it as a story." Cologne remembered he had a bag of butter-flavored melon seeds. He grabbed them and placed them on the table. The 5 people each grabbed a handful. To the sounds of cracking melon seeds, Adam shared his guess, which drew gasps and sighs. So, he didn't actually experience those things. Eugene looked enlightened, then frowned. Then how could he write about it so vividly, that from what he knew, some of the plots and especially the details in Lockhart's novel seemed realistic. It was hard to know those things without experiencing them firsthand. He knew all of that because he'd read the letters his parents sent since he was a child. He paid attention to all the details. Maybe he heard it from someone else, Cologne guessed, then lost interest and looked at Adam with shining eyes. Adam, what did you show Lockhart to scare him like that?" "Can I see it?" Bernard's eyes lit up. "Are you interested?" Adam looked at everyone. Cologne and Bernard were obviously very interested, Usher was mildly interested, and Eugene, at first, wasn't, but eventually decided to join in. "Alright, let's watch a horror movie together before dinner." Adam closed the curtains, turned off the lights, and asked everyone to sit on the couch. Then he conjured 5 buckets of popcorn and 5 cups of soda. He summoned the brand and took out his shorthand quill. "Everyone ready?" "Yeah." "Then, the ring is on." Chapter 62, The Never-Ending Halloween Dinner. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After the movie, Adam lit a lamp and glanced around, taking in everyone's reactions. Eugene and Cologne both looked miserable. Eugene was barely holding himself upright, while Cologne had practically melted into the sofa. Bernard seemed both terrified and thrilled, probably because Adam had embraced his inner horror movie buff. Uther surprised Adam the most. His face seemed unsatisfied. "The curse's premise is pretty clever," Uther commented, crunching popcorn and taking a swig of Coke. "Watch this tape, and you're guaranteed to die in 7 days. I bet tons of people would be too curious to resist." He'd already demolished his own stash during the movie and was now working on Cologne's. The little guy had barely touched his Coke and popcorn this time, which was saying something. Later that night, 2 shadowy figures crept out of bed and exchanged glances in the moonlight. "Bathroom?" "Together." Cologne hesitated at the door, hand on the knob. Even though he'd gone with Eugene, they were still spooked and didn't feel safe enough. Looking back at the others, Bernard looked genuinely scared, and Adam, well, he seemed like he might deliberately try to freak them out while they were in the bathroom. "Best to grab Uther." Tap tap, poke, poke. "Huh." Uther blinked awake, startled to see them looming over him. He sat up. "What's up?" "Uther, wanna use the bathroom?" "Huh." "Not really." Uther ran a hand through his hair, ready to flop back down, when Eugene and Cologne grabbed his arms. "Yes, you do." "Uther." "Hold on, let me get my pajamas." After their bathroom trip, Eugene and Cologne practically sprinted back to bed. Cologne burrowed under the covers, relieved. Then, remembering his earlier embarrassment, he glared at Adam in the next bed over. Adam was already turned towards him, eyes wide open. "Cologne." His face contorted in pure terror. Luckily, he remembered it was the middle of the night and clamped a hand over his mouth to stifle a scream, then slowly retreated under the covers. Adam smiled slightly, hugged Xiao Kun Si Bai, and closed his eyes, hiding under the covers. He'd give them another dose of terror soon enough. A sleepy Uther yawned, bringing up the rear. He glanced at Adam, peacefully surrounded by cats, and shook his head. Poor guys, that night's horror movie marathon left a lasting impression. The trip to the Forbidden Forest, originally planned for mid-October, was pushed back further and further. practically until Halloween. Cologne and Eugene claimed they were working on their courage and would be ready in another 2 weeks, tops, whether it was to finally explore the Forbidden Forest, or perhaps a twinge of guilt. Lockhart remained the only one who genuinely enjoyed Adam's carefully curated horror fest after that night. The stories got wilder and wilder, even including scenes that hadn't appeared in his books. This unexpected jolt of inspiration caused Lockhart, who thought he was immune to horror after so much exposure, to actually faint from the sheer emotional impact. Now, Cologne's glances towards Lockhart held a hint of sympathy mixed with the schadenfreude. Last year, we had a troll invasion on Halloween. Hopefully, this year will be smoother. Uther sighed on the way to the Great Hall. Adam paused slightly. Wow, school had been in session for ages. First, he was focused on winning over everyone with love cards, then dealing with Lockhart, and now he was busy in the kitchen. He'd almost forgotten about the basilisk and the Horcrux. At least dinner was uneventful. The Hufflepuffs, except for the first years, were surprised to see many of the same pumpkin desserts from last year on the table. A lot of these were holiday specials, you couldn't even buy them in Adam's shop. But the real showstopper was the Professor Dumbledore fondant on the teacher's table. The 2-foot-tall figure perfectly captured Dumbledore's peaceful, sleeping expression, down to the tiny bow on his beard and the half-moon spectacles on his nose. After the feast, Professor Dumbledore took the lead in carving the fondant. "No, I've had enough. You should enjoy it," Professor McGonagall said politely, staring at the slice Dumbledore offered. Dumbledore turned to Professor Snape, who immediately stood up and left. His eyes scanned the table, and one professor after another hurriedly avoided eye contact. Only Professor Lockhart was too slow to escape. "I don't believe you ate much just now, Gilderoy. Share some with me." Dumbledore smiled warmly. "Don't worry, I made sure with Adam there are no magical protections on it this time." Bringing that up only made Lockhart's face darken. After seeing so many werewolves and ghosts lately, he had no appetite for festive treats. Now Dumbledore was teasing him with the guy who'd kept him in the hospital wing for 2 weeks. Still, eating Dumbledore with Dumbledore was a story. Maybe he could make a headline out of this someday. Suppressing his annoyance, Lockhart forced a smile. Thanks to recent events, his fake smile game had gotten much stronger. "Of course, Professor Dumbledore, I'd be delighted to." But the sudden scream cut him off, followed by a wave of commotion. Dumbledore leaped to his feet and strode toward the source of the noise. Lockhart, looking a little green, hurried after him. It was in the corridor just outside the Great Hall. A crowd of students had gathered around the wall between the windows. By the time Dumbledore arrived, McGonagall had already taken charge. She turned to him, her expression grim. "Albus." Dumbledore followed her gaze to the wall, where 2 lines of twisted words were written in some kind of liquid. "The Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Enemies of the air, beware." Below, Mrs. Norris lay petrified in Filch's arms. Dumbledore's eyes flickered with thought, but he calmly reassured McGonagall. "Don't worry, everyone. I'll get to the bottom of this." The mere presence of the century's greatest wizard was reassuring. Adam could feel the tension ease among the surrounding students when Dumbledore spoke. Chapter 63, The Legend of the Secret Chamber, The Future Should Change. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Because Filch ratted them out, Dumbledore had to haul everyone involved away. The rest of the students, though they dispersed, were buzzing about what had just happened. Hogwarts Chamber of Secrets. Is that even a real thing? Eugene wondered. What's that? Uther asked, curious. It's a Hogwarts legend. You all know how the founders, the original 4 deans, had different ideas about who should be admitted. Yeah, I remember that from History of Magic last semester. The Sorting Hat basically carries on their traditions. Cologne chimed in. Right, so the story goes that the 4 founders had a major disagreement about blood purity. Salazar Slytherin only wanted to admit purebloods, and the other 3 were against it. Only purebloods? That's got to be tough. Uther was surprised. Even in Egypt, truly pureblood wizarding families were almost extinct. The few that were left, Well, let's just say they were pretty inbred, it was inevitable. There weren't many pure-blood wizards to begin with, and they rarely had large families. After a few generations of marrying cousins, things got weird. If it was like that in a big place like Egypt, Britain must be even worse off. I guess the other three founders saw that coming, Eugene said, not entirely sure. He continued with the legend of the chamber. The story says that after the argument, Salazar Slytherin left the school, but not before building a secret chamber in the castle. Only he knew how to get in. He also predicted that only his heir could open it and release some monster to wipe out all the Muggleborns. Whoa! Bernard, the only Muggle-born in their group, sounded excited. The others recognized that glint in his eye. What kind of monster would it be? That's so cool. What are you planning, man? Instead of asking, they played along with Bernard's morbid curiosity. Mrs. Norris was petrified. Maybe it's Medusa. Cologne guessed logically. Eugene shot that down. Medusa couldn't have lived that long. The legend says the thing's been around for 1,000 years. But what if the whole monster-petrifying Mrs. Norris thing has nothing to do with Slytherin? Cologne countered. Maybe whoever did this is just using the Chamber of Secrets legend as a cover. They're not an heir, and the monster isn't Slytherin's. You might be right, Eugene admitted. But how would a Medusa even sneak into Hogwarts? Eugene had a gut feeling the culprit was connected to the legend, but he didn't have any proof. We had a troll get in last year, around this time, actually. Cologne pointed out, though he thought it was a long shot. Dumbledore would never let Hogwarts get invaded again and again, but he had another idea. Maybe it's not a monster at all, but some wizard using dark magic. That kind of complete petrification couldn't be done with just basic petrification spells, it had to be something really nasty. Either way, it's a seriously dangerous person, Bernard concluded. So, what if we? No. The other four said in unison. Bernard, dude, just dial back the curiosity, okay? Adam sighed, grabbing Bernard's shoulder. Medusa, dark wizard, whatever it is, it's deadly. If you're that bored, I'll go hang out in the Forbidden Forest. Yeah, let's go to the Forbidden Forest, Cologne agreed enthusiastically. He was still a little traumatized from their first time, but for Bernard's sake, he figured he could handle it, as long as Adam didn't try to make a dry well appear again. The Forbidden Forest was dangerous, but they'd survived worse. It couldn't be more dangerous than stumbling into an acromantula nest. The petrification thing, though, was unknown, and the unknown was the scariest. Alright, I won't do anything dumb, Bernard said with a sigh of disappointment, shaking off Adam's grip. Maybe that was why the Sorting Hat put him in Hufflepuff instead of Gryffindor. He actually listened to reason. Ironically, Adam, the one who talked Bernard out of it, was about to head straight for the Chamber of Secrets. If I catch the basilisk early, will Harry be too inexperienced to beat Voldemort? Should I hold back a couple of my cards to give him a chance? Adam thought, then it hit him. Wait a minute. At the rate I'm growing, why would Voldemort even let Harry fight? That he couldn't fully use his cardless magic yet, but the earth, water, wind, and fire cloud cards were working fine, and he could even sustain the light and dark cards for a few minutes. At this rate, when Voldemort showed up in a couple years, Adam would probably be able to let him choose how he wanted to die, so why let Harry go through all that crap, classmates dying, professors dying, his godfather dying, even Harry himself dying. Just to follow the plot of the books. The books were great and all, but was the whole fish and net broken victory really worth preserving? Adam did a quick mental calculation. If the story went as planned, his roommates would be in danger, at least half the customers he developed in the last year would be gone, his investment target would die, and 2 lovely and respectable professors would be gone. Oh, and Ares's little lovebird, Hedwig, would be sacrificed. He wondered how those two were getting along, and that was just based on the current data. Adam's losses would only get bigger, damn, Adam sucked in a breath, no way. I can't let that happen. It has to change, better to just off Voldemort directly. As for the prophecy, he'd deal with that later. Maybe he could find a loophole, or even let Harry capture Voldemort first and then kill him. He just wanted to be able to say that Voldemort died at Harry's hands. Reaching the girls' bathroom on the second floor, Adam waved his dark wand, and the ingot lock spell sealed the door shut. The ingot lock was total lockdown, walls, windows, everything. The locked room could only be opened with the right key, the sealing wand in key mode. Otherwise, you had to break the spell. Adam had already tried unlocking spells, they didn't work. Walking to the sink with the snake engraving, Adam summoned a card. Chapter 64 I Conquered the Basilisk. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Adam didn't speak Parseltongue. He could have had Harry say it once and then mimic it with a sound card, but that felt too calculated. Besides, the Parseltongue that opened the Chamber of Secrets was clearly linked to the chamber itself, so, he decided to use the Clow card's unique abilities. The Through card showed a woman in ancient Chinese clothing walking through a circular portal. Its magic allowed someone to temporarily shed their physical form and pass through solid objects, like walls. Using the card, Adam easily entered the Chamber of Secrets pipe. The stench of decay hit him immediately, making it hard to breathe. Ugh. Ugh. Quickly, he summoned his wand and cast a bubblehead charm around his head, finally able to take a few deep breaths. This basilisk is seriously unhygienic. I'm gonna have to brush its teeth and give it a bath when I'm done with it. Adam held out his hand, and a small light emerged from his palm. It was the light card's magic, illuminating the dark pipe. Bones littered the tunnel, mostly from mice. There were also some larger, fragmented bones, impossible to identify. Did the basilisk survive for 1,000 years eating this stuff? Maybe there were bugs, like cockroaches, that didn't leave bones. Is that how it grew so big? TSK, that's a rough life, living for a millennium on scraps. There were messy drag marks in the bone piles, probably left by the basilisk. Adam also found dozens of shed basilisk skins. Score. Gotta save these. He used the bubble card's magic to clean the snake's skin, folded it, and put it in his bag. Then, he heard something dragging on the ground. Did the basilisk know he was there? Or was the diary controlling Ginny to come over? Adam carefully finished with the last snakeskin, turned, and came face to face with the basilisk emerging from the pipe. That's some serious magic. Looking into its amber, vertical pupils, Adam couldn't help but sigh as he felt his shield's protective magic activate. The basilisk, initially angered by the intrusion into its lair, stopped short, surprised to find the little figure in front of it hadn't died after meeting its gaze. How was that even possible? Roar. It roared, like any snake, and lunged forward. It couldn't rely solely on its gaze for hunting. Bang. It felt like it had run into a brick wall, stumbling backward, dazed, shaking its head. It looked ahead. The human kid held a shield almost as tall as himself, the gold and ruby decorations gleaming in the light. A flicker of doubt appeared in the basilisk's eyes. Both the kid and the shield were tiny compared to it. How could they have blocked its attack? Wary, the basilisk slowly shifted its body, preparing to strike from another angle. Adam held up the shield, studying the basilisk, and thought, how do I take this thing down without hurting it too badly? Meanwhile, at a pipe exit in Hogwarts, Ginny, controlled by Voldemort's soul fragment, paced anxiously. Earlier, she'd heard Myrtle crying about not being able to enter the second-floor girls' bathroom. When she rushed there, she found it blocked by powerful magic, so she'd hurried to summon the basilisk. The basilisk should have arrived by now after hearing the command. Had Dumbledore really discovered the secret down there? Impossible. Dumbledore didn't speak Parseltongue. Despite his thoughts, Voldemort's soul fragment felt increasingly uncertain. When he was created, Voldemort wasn't a terrifying name, or even well known. People still called him Tom Riddle. Although he knew of his future greatness through his connection to Ginny, Dumbledore, whom he had to face, would also become the greatest wizard of the century, and he hadn't even regained his past power. No, he had to leave. The basilisk was just a tool. If it was gone, it was gone. Falling into Dumbledore's hands would be a disaster. Making up his mind, Voldemort's soul fragment had Ginny speak a few words in Parseltongue, then turn and left decisively. The basilisk was in a bind, but it was still fighting. Adam had shrunk it with a card and held it in his hand. Its strength diminished, but its ferocity remained. It bit at Adam's fingers with its deadly venom, but couldn't penetrate the shield's defenses. Adam was frustrated. He was pretty sure the basilisk understood human words and had responded to his attempts at persuasion, but not favorably. What kind of potion did Salazar Slytherin give this thing? Or was it bound by some magical contract? If he couldn't subdue it, he'd just have to collect it, stick it in an opaque container, and feed it a mouse every now and then, or maybe he could use 2 cards to summon another basilisk from a parallel world and see if that one would surrender. He could kill this one and see how it tastes. Basilisk are afraid of roosters crowing, so what if he tried making a dragon and a phoenix fight each other? Just as Adam was thinking this, the basilisk in his hand stopped struggling. Could the basilisk read minds? Impossible. Even if it could, his protection magic would still be up. Curious, Adam pinched the basilisk and brought it up to his eyes. It seemed completely drained, offering no resistance at all. Adam examined it closely and noticed that its eyes had lost their spark, like a salted fish with no dreams. What had happened? Adam put the basilisk back in his palm and poked it a few times. The basilisk finally reacted, raising its head and hissing a few times, as if trying to negotiate. Adam. This was when knowing multiple foreign languages came in handy. But where would he learn Serpent Tongue? He remembered that Professor Dumbledore could understand Parseltongue. Forget it. Since the basilisk had calmed down, he wouldn't eat it, at least not yet. He'd just keep it in a jar. Adam had quickly mastered the shrinking charm through the small card. With the Philosopher's Stone as a power source, he didn't have to worry about the basilisk suddenly returning to its original size, so, Adam carefully placed the shrunken basilisk in a glass candy jar, wrapped it in layers of black cloth, and poked 2 holes in the lid for air. After doing all this, Adam returned to the bathroom, used the illusion card to hide himself, then removed the ingot card's barrier. He ran to an abandoned, empty classroom to restore his form and returned to the dormitory, acting as if nothing had happened. No one suspected that Adam had just returned from a secret mission and was hiding a monster in a jar in his pocket. Chapter 65, 50 Ways to Process, Cook, Horcruxes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After taking care of the basilisk, the diary was the next thing to deal with, and that was way easier. First, he shielded Ginny. Then, when she woke up, he asked her to hand over the diary. Still under the diary's influence, Ginny knew it was bad news, so she gave it to Adam without a second thought. Can you keep this a secret? Ginny looked pale, scared, and probably drained from the diary sucking her dry. I don't want my brothers to worry, and what about Mrs. Norris? Don't sweat it. My lips are sealed. Adam, already seen as a reliable big brother by Ginny thanks to Fred and George, gave her a smile that screamed, friendly Hufflepuff, and offered her a honey-flavored candy. But I still think you should see Madame Pomfrey. Just say the Chamber of Secrets legend has been keeping you up at night. Thanks, I will. Ginny grabbed the candy, relieved, then looked back at Adam. What are you going to do with the diary? Destroy it, of course. But it doesn't seem like normal methods will work. I want to run some tests. Okay, be careful it doesn't control you. Ginny warned him a few more times before heading out, feeling much better knowing Adam could handle the diary's influence. Alright, let's see how tough these legendary Horcruxes really are. Adam stared at the diary, a curious glint in his eye. Unlike Harry and his friends, who only had basilisk venom, Adam had more than enough power and resources. Back in the room of requirement, Adam set the diary on a table next to a notebook with a self-writing quill perched on top, ready to go. Swish, swish, swish star. Before he knew it, the title of his experiment log appeared. Horcrux characteristic testing begins. Experiment 1, physical resistance, star. Horcruxes were said to be impervious to physical damage, but the damage was never anything crazy. Adam wondered if Horcruxes were truly immune to physical damage. He was excited to test his theory. Adam summoned his power card and eyed the diary eagerly. What followed were Adam's ruthless magical experiments on Voldemort's Horcrux. Day by day the diary got thinner, and the notebook got thicker with Adam's detailed diagrams of the experimental results. The experiments showed that most of the Clow cards worked against Horcruxes, some even more effectively than others. The Gone card, for instance, took slightly more magic than usual, but transformed a page of the diary into a cloud cake, soul power and all. Ultimately, Adam chickened out of eating the cloud cake and fed it to the basilisk, who seemed to happily accept all kinds of human food. During the experiments, fragments of Voldemort's soul in the Horcrux repeatedly wrote on the diary, begging, threatening, then begging again. Adam ignored it all. Eventually, maybe because it gave up or maybe because it lacked the strength, the diary fell silent. Adam was a little bummed. The lack of response lessened his his scientific satisfaction. Of course, his main goal was to explore the science behind the magic and expand his knowledge. Yeah, that's it. The Horcrux experiment significantly boosted Adam's magic power and gave him a chance to try out most of the Clow cards. With only 4 pages left, and the soul power almost gone, Adam felt a pang of guilt. He still hadn't used 4 cards. It was such a waste. He had to start thinking about more experiments, but before Adam could come up with new methods, the school year's Quidditch season began. At 11 in the morning, Adam and his roommates headed to the Quidditch pitch. Adam, what's with the disappearing act lately? We can't find you for hours every week. Are you smitten or something? Uther looked at Adam, who had been late and wedged himself in the group, and chuckled. No time for romance. Adam shrugged. Magic had his full attention, and between family, roommates, and professors, his social life was full. He had no more time to spare. They dropped the subject of love. It was just a joke. As they joined the larger crowd of students, they started discussing the game. It's Gryffindor versus Slytherin again. Last year, Harry Potter missed the final game and Gryffindor lost to Slytherin. Their captain's out for revenge this year. Cedric got along well with Oliver, or rather, he got along with almost everyone. He obviously had inside information. But Malfoy's joined Slytherin this year. His dad shelled out big bucks for Nimbus 2001s for the whole team. It could go either way. Nimbus 2001s for everyone. That's insane. Ernie sighed, feeling envious, and took a big sip of honey water. Adam's food just hit differently. Adam, whose food that heals people's hearts could fund a whole Quidditch team in a year, was lost in thought as he watched the 2 teams line up on the field. Harry always ran into problems during Quidditch matches. What could happen this year, when Harry was targeted by bludgers again, and his classmates started yelling at Slytherin for their dirty tricks? Adam clapped his hands. I remember now. Remember what? Eugene, who wasn't busy yelling at Slytherin, turned to Adam. I remembered something I forgot. Adam rubbed his face. How could he forget the Malfoy's house elf? What was the name of the elf who was freed and then sacrificed himself? Gollum? Yoda? Oh, it was Dobby. Now the basilisk was living large with 3 meals a day, snacks, and weekly baths. The Horcrux diary was hanging on, but Dobby had no idea. It still thought Old Man Malfoy wanted to off Harry Potter. It was also the one who made Harry drive the flying car to school that year, and blocked the gate to platform 9 3/4 so Harry missed the train. Wait, now that he thought about it, maybe house elf magic was worth studying. Adam, lost in his love of magic research, forgot what he was thinking about and started pondering academic problems. Meanwhile, up in the air, Dobby was trying to knock Harry off his broomstick 500 feet above the ground with a high-speed quaffle, for his own safety. Chapter 66 The Greatest Invention in the Wizarding World. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The cheers snapped Adam back to reality. Away from the house elves flitting around his mind, he saw Harry plummeting from the sky after catching the golden snitch and, with a sudden realization, raced towards the field with the crowd. This asterisk was it. In second year, and in the whole damn series, the greatest invention in the wizarding world, squeezing through the Gryffindor surrounding Harry, Adam grinned when he saw Gilderoy Lockhart pushing his way forward, looking thrilled. Leave it to me, don't worry, I've got plenty of experience with this sort of thing. No, wait, don't. Just get me to the hospital wing. Ignoring the protests, Adam watched Lockhart like a hawk, tracking the wand's movements and memorizing every syllable. The spell hit, and Harry's arm went limp and boneless, like a rubber hose in a cartoon. All the bones were gone, a bone-removing curse. With magic like this, who needs fancy techniques to debone a chicken or fillet a fish? This is magic improving lives. Wonder if you could use it to get the pits out of cherries. That the spell was a disaster, but Lockhart still wore a nailed-it smile as he awkwardly stood up. Sometimes, yes, this occasionally happens, but the broken bone is fine. Right? Now, Harry, off to the hospital wing. Lockhart avoided Harry's angry glare and turned to Harry's friends. Mr. Weasley, Miss Granger, would you be so kind as to accompany Harry? Furious at Lockhart, but with Harry's safety their priority, they glared at Lockhart, then quickly helped Harry up and headed to the hospital wing. Ouch! In the confusion, Lockhart got a swift kick from someone. With the star player sidelined, the final handshakes were rushed. Adam said his goodbyes and headed to an abandoned classroom. Dobby, being a house elf, was hard to pin down, with no fixed routine. Adam needed a special approach. Like divination, there were lots of ways to divine with cloud cards, dream cards for dream interpretation, water cards for water divination, tree cards for summoning yarrow. The first was too unpredictable, and the second required too much expertise. For Adam, the best method was direct use of the cloud cards. Combined with tarot, they worked a treat. Shuffle with your left hand, then divide the deck into 3 and recombine. Only your left hand, remember. Xiaoka and Sibby, perched on the table, walked Adam through the process. After shuffling, pick 10 cards and arrange them in a 3x3 diamond pattern. First card goes in the opposite corner, the second faces you, third goes lower left, fourth lower right. With the cards in place, Adam closed his eyes. Clow card, created by Clow Reed, answer my question and show me Dobby the house elf's location. Magic flowed through the Clow cards. Adam opened his eyes and flipped the first card. Sibby said gravely, a land sign. The first card was a pointer, showing the location was connected to the earth. Which wasn't saying much since he was looking for a location, and the earth card just meant the target wasn't in the air or water. Then there were the 3 cards in the middle row, they held the real meat of the reading. Adam flipped them left to right. Pow Pai, Gon Pai, Xiao Pai. Xiaoka tilted his head. Where the heck was that? Dobby is hiding in the Hogwarts kitchens. Connecting the dots, Adam couldn't see another answer. It seemed like enough, but Adam played it through and flipped the card in the lower right corner. It pointed to the divination object's next target. A shield, protector. Or a savior. Makes sense. Knowing Dobby, Adam understood the reading perfectly. He gathered the Clow cards and headed straight for the kitchens, next to the dorms and the Hufflepuff common room. They were the place he knew best. Mr. Reed, can I help you? As he entered, a passing house elf greeted Adam. Blue, I'm wondering if any new house elves have been in the kitchens lately. Closing the door, Adam glanced around casually and asked Blue in a low voice. Seeing this, Blue lowered his voice too. New house elf? Yes, Mr. Reed, a house elf has come to Hogwarts, and its young master is now studying at Hogwarts. Blue seemed a little peeved, as though questioning their work. But it wasn't just that. He's terribly lazy. He barely helps his master since coming to Hogwarts. His master really should. Okay, Blue, I know you're the hardest worker here. Adam cut Blue off. Blue puffed up proudly, and Adam seized the chance to ask, where is that house elf right now? Well, he just went out for a bit, but he's back now. He's resting by the oak barrel. Adam's hand flashed, and the staff of darkness struck the ground. A massive magic circle enveloped the kitchen, and a large, translucent lock faded into the air. Mr. Reed, Blue looked confused. Take me to that barrel. Okay. Not sure what Adam was up to, Blue still trusted the student who had taken control of the kitchens and elves before. the Hogwarts house elves lived in oak barrels, mostly new ones with butterbeer and 3 broomsticks logos. Dobby's barrel was squeezed into a corner, an old one, its iron hoops rusted. Adam walked over and heard a soft snore. All that spellcasting on the bludger probably took it out of Dobby. A lazy one deserves a barrel like that. Look at him, sleeping on the job. Blue muttered indignantly, ignoring Blue. Adam held his hand towards the barrel, magic forming in his palm, the sealing magic, encompassing the entire kitchen, focused on the barrel, then floated it up beside Adam. Mr. Reed, where are you taking him? Blue couldn't help but ask. Adam glanced at Dobby, snoring away in the barrel, and smiled. I need to ask him some questions. Chapter 67 Duel Club. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The clueless house elf didn't question Adam at all and let him take Dobby without a fuss. Adam then used a magic card to bring Dobby openly into the room of requirement. Rise and shine, that he tapped the oak barrel with the staff of darkness, and Dobby popped his head out, eyes wide with hope. He'd woken up on the way, but the magic lock had kept him stuck in the barrel. Could this mean? But Dobby remained frozen in place. No need to try. The seals just expanded from the barrel to the room. After a moment, Dobby scrambled out of the barrel and bowed, trembling, to Adam. Sir, does you have need of Dobby? The diary's mine now. Adam cut to the chase, holding up the 4-page diary. Dobby's eyes, already huge, got even bigger. So, you don't have to protect Harry Potter anymore. Adam felt a little conflicted saying this. Dobby's protection had mostly backfired so far. Oh, my goodness. Harry Potter is safe. Dobby bounced up and down a few times, then burst into tears. Dobby doesn't have to disobey his master anymore. Bad Dobby. Dobby is a useless house elf. He started banging his head on the floor. Adam was taken aback. He'd forgotten that Dobby's freedom was a complicated issue. Old Malfoy probably wouldn't come to Hogwarts now. Meaning Dobby would just continue serving the Malfoy family, but it wasn't a huge problem. He wasn't about to start a global campaign to liberate the oppressed, let alone house elves. And he wasn't particularly fond of Dobby. Dobby was brave and did protect Harry when he died, but Adam didn't really admire him. His obsession with Harry stemmed from the boy who lived story. He betrayed his master for the sake of an idealized image and then decided what he thought best to protect his imaginary savior. The whole thing seemed absurd. Dobby and Harry formed a true friendship later, but initially, Dobby treated Harry like a crazy overprotective older brother. After Dobby calmed down, Adam told him to explain everything to Harry, suggesting that if Harry thought it necessary, he could find a way to free Dobby himself. As for learning house elf magic, there were plenty of them at Hogwarts, practically next door to the Hufflepuff dorms. He figured they'd be happy to help. With Dobby out of the picture, the castle was secure again, and Adam's school life could return to normal. Adam spent the next 2 weeks dissecting the bone-removing spell that Lockhart had stumbled upon, turning it into a magic circle. The spell had some things in common with card magic, but it was more targeted. Driven by delicious food, Adam made faster progress than ever. It was no longer just a bone-removing spell. It could remove bones, scales, shrimp veins, snail shells, fruit pits, rotten leaves, solids from liquids, anything the caster deemed an impurity. The magic was subjective. Cartilage, for example, could be considered a non-impurity and left intact. The same went for the head and tail of a fish, keeping its shape so it remained appetizing. Uther gave the spell his highest praise, while Cologne called it a miracle. Bernard immediately ordered a plate of roasted chicken legs from the kitchen. Let's see it in action. Adam touched a chicken leg, and all the bones vanished, leaving the cartilage at the ends. Adam, this could make you famous. Cologne exclaimed, chewing on the leg. Braised carp. Eugene was excited. He loved braised fish, but the bones were a hassle. He usually stuck to braised hairtail, but now anything was possible. Adam was already brainstorming new dishes to make. Just as Hufflepuff was about to descend into a food-fueled frenzy, Lockhart caused trouble again. Maybe he missed being the center of attention now that the castle was safe, Or maybe Adam's focus on spell research had emboldened him. Whatever the reason, Lockhart was going through with his dueling club. Adam was even more shocked that Professor Dumbledore had agreed. Even if the headmaster didn't know Hogwarts was safe, he wouldn't have trusted Lockhart to do anything useful. The headmaster's control over the castle was total. Portraits, ghosts, house elves, they were all his eyes and ears, in addition to who knows what other protective magic, so why was Dumbledore letting Lockhart do this? Intrigued, Adam followed the crowd to the so-called dueling club. The hall had been cleared out for the club. The long tables from the 4 houses were gone, replaced by a gaudy dueling platform in the center. It looked more like a stage, complete with floral arrangements. Gilderoy Lockhart made his grand entrance. He wore a purple robe that glittered under the hundreds of candles floating overhead. Professor Snape followed, his face as sour as when Adam drew Harry in the lottery. Lockhart bounded to the center of the stage and waved for silence. "Gather round, everyone. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Excellent." Lockhart flashed his signature smile. "Professor Dumbledore has allowed me to start this little dueling club to help you all defend yourselves if the need arises, using the methods I've employed countless times. For more details, see my published works." After plugging his books, Lockhart gestured towards Snape. "Let me introduce my assistant, Professor Snape. I invited him to guide you with me." He also recommended a little surprise assistant but refused to provide further information. Isn't it exciting? Chapter 68: A True Warrior. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Lockhart's little speech, Adam suddenly felt a shiver of unease. Even Snape looked almost better, and gave him a weird glance. Lockhart, gotta give him credit, he's got away with words. Even after Adam stiffed him, he managed to charm some of his old fans. The crowd was eating it up. Thank you all so much. Now, how about we bring out my little assistant?" Lockhart gave Snape a knowing wink, like they were old buddies. Snape's face tightened, then he forced a creepy smile. "Adam Reed." "Adam, huh? Me?" Nobody said anything about a surprise performance. Adam was still reeling when Snape glared at him. "Get up here. Now. Don't be shy. Relax." "Adam, where are you hiding?" Lockhart wasn't suspicious at all. Sure, he suspected someone was trying to sabotage him, but he never considered the students. What could a student possibly do? That's why he jumped at the chance when Snape suggested a student spar with him instead. A student would be a pushover compared to another professor. Under the weight of everyone's stares, Adam trudged onto the stage and looked at Snape, who was standing beside him. "Relax," Snape said, his face a mask. He raised a hand and patted Adam's shoulder lightly, his voice barely a whisper. "Just use the spell I taught you. You know the one." Adam's mouth twitched. "You taught me 2 spells. One's the body bind, the other's the severing charm. They're, totally different. Wanna narrow it down?" Seeing Adam step into the spotlight, Lockhart's smile faltered. He flashed back to that whole biting cabbage incident, the one that landed him in the hospital wing. He didn't bother with attendance, and his classes were a train wreck, so he couldn't place faces with names. He didn't realize it was that Adam until he saw him on stage, but Lockhart quickly regained his composure. The last time was a setup, and it didn't prove the kid was actually any good. He could totally use this to his advantage. "Come on up, kid. I won't hurt you. Just follow the routine." Lockhart waved Adam over with a grin. Snape gave Adam another pat on the back and stepped down, leaving Adam and Lockhart alone on stage. "First, Mr. Reed and I will take our places on opposite sides of the stage, then we bow." "Yes, just like that." After bowing, Lockhart twirled his wand a few times and slowly began to speak. "Now, to Disar. Body bind. TSK. Whoa!" As the student stared in amazement, Adam looked at Lockhart, who was now dangling upside down in the air, with an innocent expression. "Professor, aren't we supposed to wait until after the bow to attack?" Lockhart's face turned beet red, probably from all the blood rushing to his head. He was silent for a few seconds before finally sputtering. "Ah, yes, of course I knew that. I was merely demonstrating for everyone, your offensive was far too obvious. I would never fall for such a simple trick in a real duel." Adam nodded and glanced at Snape, who seemed to mutter something under his breath. Adam must have misheard, right? Still, wasn't the severing charm a bit much? What if it scared the other students? The killing them softly routine he'd planned for Lockhart seemed way safer. Lockhart flailed in the air for a moment, then launched into a story about his daring duel with a dark wizard, and how he defeated some former dueling champ. He even threw in some random curse that Adam had never heard of. Finally, Lockhart, his vision starting to blur, gave Adam a weak smile. "Mr. Reed, I want to test your knowledge of this curse's counterspell. Not that I can't break it, mind you. I've seen this little trick more times than I can count. I haven't learned the counter curse yet, Professor," Adam said, with the earnest face of a model student. "So, you'd probably better come down on your own." Lockhart's face turned an even darker shade of red, almost purple. Yes. I'll just come down right now, whoops." After flapping around like a landed fish, Lockhart looked at the students and gave a feeble smile. "Seems there's something wrong with my wand. Could someone help me find Madame Pomfrey? Please. Anyone?" Under the shocked gazes of the students, Lockhart's head lolled to the side and he passed out, foam bubbling at his lips. "Oh my God, someone help him. Quiet." Snape strode onto the stage, flicked his wand, and Lockhart dropped to the floor with a thump. Adam thought he heard something crack. Snape glanced at Lockhart, a glimmer of satisfaction in his eyes. He looked out at the students and drawled. "It appears your Professor Lockhart has suffered another unfortunate incident. I'm afraid the dueling club will have to be postponed. Go back to your dorms." "No. Wait a minute. I'm fine." To the shock of the crowd, and Snape's obvious annoyance, Lockhart struggled to his feet, his face still flushed, but he managed a shaky smile. "It's okay, it was just a little mishap. I'm not hurt. I'm fine. Professor Lockhart," Adam said, his voice tinged with respect. "The guy was a trooper. Maybe you should head to the hospital wing, just to be safe. I mean, look at those bloodshot eyes and that nosebleed, you're gonna die on the stage." "Don't worry, I'm fine, I'm fine. I've faced situations far worse than this on my travels. My wand malfunctioned." Lockhart held up his wand and tried to do a fancy flourish, but the wand flew out of his hand. Without missing a beat, he scurried over to pick it up. "Ahem, just demonstrating. Next, the real duel. We'll show you a proper duel. First, we'll establish the protocol." Lockhart clearly didn't want to spend any more time hanging upside down, so he said. "We'll bow first, then we'll both use Expelliarmus. You know that spell, right?" Lockhart breathed a sigh of relief when Adam nodded. To avoid getting hit with any more weird spells, he thought it best if they both stuck to the same one. Luckily, Expelliarmus was one of the few spells he could actually cast properly. If Adam didn't know it, things could get ugly, fast. He couldn't win a battle of Obliviates, could he? Chapter 69, Lockhart, a man of strong body and weak mind. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Lockhart, after another bow on the dueling stage, was brimming with confidence. He conceded he'd underestimated his opponent earlier, admitting the strange little spells were decent, but could a student taught by a potions professor really be stronger than him when he was serious? Expelliarmus. A bolt of red light shot across the stage, hitting Lockhart and sending him crashing into the wall. His eyes widened, lips trembling. He stuck to the wall for a good 3 seconds before sliding down to a sitting position with a thud. Lockhart's wand spun through the air and landed in Adam's hand. Then, as if remembering something, Adam added, Expelliarmus. The other students were speechless. Awesome. Totally awesome. Bernard's eyes lit up as he started clapping. Adam's roommates quickly joined in, followed by the Hufflepuffs, and then the rest of the school. Clap 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 star. After 3 sharp claps, Professor Snape strode to the center of the arena. A very thrilling duel. Now, unfortunately, your Professor Lockhart has been seriously injured again. He emphasized the word again, glancing at Lockhart to make sure he wasn't about to spring back up. After a 3-second pause, Snape looked away. As for the dueling club. His eyes flicked over Harry, and he hesitated for a moment before continuing smoothly, I'll take Professor Lockhart to the hospital wing. When I get back, you'll work in pairs and practice. The students erupted in excitement. Professor Lockhart had been terrible, but Adam had been amazing. Who wouldn't want to replace the bad guy? Plus, many of them were getting their first chance to actually cast a spell on someone. While I'm gone, you'd better behave and make sure nothing untoward happens. Otherwise. Seeing the students' enthusiasm, Professor Snape gave a chilling smile that quieted them down. He then waved his wand at Professor Lockhart. Zombie float. Professor Snape left the hall, followed by the prone Lockhart. A few seconds later, the hall exploded with noise. Oh my God, Adam, that was so cool. Adam, putting away his wand, was immediately surrounded by his friends. What spell was that before? I don't think it was in the textbook. Professor Snape taught it to me. Apparently, he invented it himself. Adam told Cologne. Invented it? Wow, Cologne was stunned. How can Expelliarmus knock someone out like that? How did you do it? Uther asked. Adam smiled slyly. Practice makes perfect. It was the strike card, he thought. I added the strike card, because the strike card releases a laser-like attack, which looks like wizard spells. Adam had studied how to combine the two. He was surprised to find that it worked perfectly with most spells, like Expelliarmus. You thought it was just magic damage. This spell comes with a physical punch to the teeth. I can't believe you mastered the silent spell so early, Adam. That's incredible. Cedric sighed. The silent spell, it's really about talent. Adam shrugged, not realizing how impressive his ability was. In the wizarding world, the silent spell is just an advanced casting technique. Plenty of wizards can do it. Professor McGonagall and Professor Snape use it occasionally, for simple things like closing curtains. The real trick is casting spells without a wand. The wand is like a regulator for magic. Except for some places in Africa, where poverty has led to low skill levels, anyone who can cast spells without a wand is incredibly powerful, including Dumbledore. So, we're pairing up for practice. Who are you planning to team up with? I thought Professor Snape was going to assign partners. He probably doesn't have time. I doubt he'll care if we pick our own. Yeah, true. But fighting Adam sounds kind of dangerous. Cologne said cautiously. Then I'll team up with Adam. Bernard volunteered. He then looked at Adam. But don't knock me out, okay? Don't worry, I'll go easy. While they talked, Uther found Cedric, and Ernie teamed up with Hannah. Then I'll pair up with Eugene. Cologne patted Eugene on the shoulder. Hey, have you gotten taller these past few months? Really? Well, we're still growing, aren't we? Good point. Cologne wondered about the dietary differences between them. Does eating more fish make you taller? Should I eat more fish? At least Adam has that spell that removes fish bones. I'll eat more fish, Professor Snape returned shortly after, followed by Lockhart, who was wearing a neck brace. Adam gasped when he saw Lockhart again. What does it mean to have a strong body but a weak will? No, what does it mean to have a weak body and a strong will? That's persistence. That's dedication. In my past life, people needed to buy hot search material for colds and broken skin. I need to learn from this man. He's making me emotional, Madame Pomfrey said it was just minor injuries. My years of adventure have clearly given me a strong constitution, Lockhart, barely holding back a grimace, saw Adam heading back towards the dueling stage. I won't be demonstrating anymore. Professor Snape said he was going to put you into groups. Why don't we get that done together? Professor Snape nodded and walked toward Gryffindor, pulling Harry into a team with Draco. Lockhart scurried around, organizing the rest into groups, clearly relieved to be done with it. Once the groups were formed, Lockhart, looking even worse, hobbled back onto the stage. What are you waiting for? Let the duels begin. The hall exploded with spells, and Professor Snape immediately scowled. Stop. His voice was filled with the authority he wielded every day. The spellcasting ceased instantly, making the subsequent cries of pain even louder. I wonder if you bring your brains to charms class or if you forgot them at home and replaced them with flobberworms. Professor Snape gritted his teeth as he healed the students who'd been injured by stray spells. Before sending them to the hospital wing, he returned with Harry and Draco, dragging them onto the stage. But I can't disarm you, Harry protested. That's all right, Mr. Potter. Professor Snape's face finally cracked into a smile. He seemed to relish Harry's discomfort. Use any magic you know. Chapter 70 Parseltongue. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Any magic he knows? Does the levitation charm even count? Harry's world seemed to darken after Snape's comment, but Snape didn't care. He led them to the dueling arena and, with a flourish of his cloak, announced, "Bow to each other." Draco, wearing a nasty smirk, bowed to Harry, then raised his wand and cast, "Dragon from the depths." A puff of smoke erupted, and a black snake slithered onto the floor, heading straight for Harry. Harry froze, eyes locked on the snake. Uther stroked his chin, tilting his head. Looks like some kind of summoning spell, but what's the point of summoning a snake? He could tell it was a real one, but even if it was trained, it was just a snake. A freezing spell, a quick bind, petrification, any simple charm would do the trick. This spell might scare younger wizards, but it takes a lot to train a snake not to attack the caster, let alone to lock onto a specific target. Its combat effectiveness is questionable at best. Turns out, even Dragon from the Depths wasn't all that effective, but it definitely freaked Harry out. Don't move, let me handle this. Snape was clearly enjoying Harry's reaction, but he didn't want him to get bitten. He started forward, speaking slowly. No problem, I'll take care of it. Lockhart saw his chance to shine. He couldn't let Snape take this one, even if he couldn't beat the students. Surely he could handle a snake, right? Lockhart darted forward, waving his wand in a series of overly dramatic motions, and mumbled a barely intelligible incantation. He cast a spell, all right, but it was seriously underpowered. The snake just rolled around on the dueling platform a few times, then righted itself and angrily crawled towards Lockhart. Lockhart swallowed hard, taking a hasty step back. Okay, my bad. This spell is better suited for dealing with untrained adult wizards. Uther face-bombed and sighed. Snape silently retreated to his original spot, slipping his half-drawn wand back into his robes. Lockhart, now facing a very poisonous-looking snake, started to panic. He abandoned his cool facade, waved his wand, and shouted, "Expelliarmus!" The red light hit the snake, sending it flopping on the ground, but it quickly recovered and started moving again. What kind of monster is this? Lockhart cried. Draco chimed in, "It's just a regular snake, Professor." Were you trying to remove its fangs with a disarming charm? Lockhart, infuriated by Draco's contemptuous tone, sputtered for a moment, then stammered, "My wand doesn't seem to be working properly. Let's give Mr. Potter another turn." He beat a hasty retreat from the dueling platform, thud, star. As he hurried down the stairs, Lockhart seemed to trip, tumbling headfirst to the floor. Adam pulled his hand back, pretending to watch the dueling platform with concern. So, Mr. Potter, what are you going to do? Snape narrowed his eyes, watching Harry, who was once again the snake's target. Harry wasn't sure if it was his imagination, but Snape seemed even more annoyed. Nobody's coming to the rescue. Watching the snake getting closer, Harry suddenly had an idea. He opened his mouth and hissed, "Hiss, hiss, hiss." Snape's smile vanished. His eyes locked on Harry. In an instant, he whipped out his wand and turned the snake into a puff of smoke. "I'll take Professor Lockhart to the hospital wing." The dueling club is dismissed. Snape waved his wand, levitating Lockhart, and addressed the stunned students. Lockhart, who had been groaning on the steps, tried to protest that he didn't need the hospital wing. Just then, Snape's wand accidentally twitched, and Lockhart completed a mid-air 1080-degree roll, abruptly going silent. After dealing with Lockhart, Snape found the students still buzzing about Harry's behavior. He narrowed his eyes. "I said, go back to your common rooms." The students scattered immediately. "Did you all see that?" Cologne whispered excitedly on the way back. Harry was talking to the snake. "What's the big deal?" "Adam talks to his cat every day." Bernard pointed to Adam. "Adam, meow, meow, meow." "That's different." Cologne started to say Adam was just teasing, and the cats didn't understand, but then he remembered that the cats actually seemed to understand. The ability to talk to snakes is very special and rare in the wizarding world. It's called Parseltongue, Eugene explained. Parseltongue can not only talk to snakes, but can even command them to some extent. But here's the thing. Slytherin was a Parselmouth, and Parseltongue can be inherited. So, the heir of Slytherin has to be a Parselmouth? Exactly. Bernard looked stunned, and then he started thinking. Could the boy who lived, the legendary savior, be the one to open the Chamber of Secrets? Bernard, who had been secretly reading his parents' case files since he was a kid, knew that even someone everyone thought was good could be secretly twisted. Man, all that action made me hungry. What's for a midnight snack? Adam asked, interrupting Bernard's thoughts. How about those tiger-striped chicken feet you made last time? Bernard suggested. While Adam's dorm debated late-night snacks, the news that Harry was a Parselmouth spread like wildfire, overshadowing even Lockhart's repeated embarrassments from the night before. But, things took a turn at lunch the next day. Adam was eating in the Great Hall when Ernie approached him, looking curious. "Adam, who's the heir to the Chamber of Secrets?" "Huh?" Adam looked up, confused. "The heir? How would I know?" "Oh, come on. Harry said you dealt with all the monsters in the Chamber of Secrets. You must know who the heir is, right?" Ernie lowered his voice. "Tell me in secret." "I won't tell anyone, Harry." "How did he know?" "Damn it. Dobby." Adam understood immediately. He glanced around at the students with their ears perked up and winced. "Yeah right, I believe you. Why does everyone automatically believe everything Harry says?" Adam tried to reason. "Well, he seemed pretty sincere." Ernie scratched his head. Was he lying? That couldn't be said. If Harry had revealed his Parseltongue ability and was mistaken for the heir, Adam wouldn't be involved. But now, if Adam said Harry was lying, it would be considered slander. Desperate, Adam started to speak. "Okay, the heir to the Chamber of Secrets is. Mr. Reed, would you mind joining me for lunch?" Dumbledore materialized seemingly out of thin air, a smile on his face as he looked at Adam.